Hi everyone, and welcome to this in our series of worship hangouts here at St. T's, keeping us spiritually and technically sharp in this season. I'm delighted to say we've got our very own Jim Cook with us this time. Yes, indeed. So Jim, do you just want to share, for those that don't know you or don't know you so well, who are you and what would you normally be doing kind of in this season if it weren't for the lockdown that we're currently in?
My name's Jim. I own a video company called Centreline Films, so it's like a video production company. I'm married to Claire, who's the curate at St. T's, which is handy, living with a curate at this time, being able to do live church. Normally this time of year I would be getting ready for festival season, so lots and lots of music-based stuff, and obviously at the moment that's not happening, which is a real shame. I think live music's one of those things that's like food for your soul sometimes, isn't it? And at the moment we just can't gather in the numbers that we would be doing at this time of year. So so my summer has changed completely. Just seeing what happens and what God brings, and getting inventive with all sorts of ways of doing video and the part that plays in this world at the moment. So
great. And I know that your focus has probably changed a bit as well from I imagine, I don't know, that producing videos for quite big acts from sort of festival highlights will be very different to putting together kind of spiritual and faith content for a church. Have you noticed, like, in the way that you are kind of working and approaching work, that kind of God's been speaking to you in that, in the kind of difference of what you've been doing and the kind of way that you would maybe create and edit it, maybe for other people who are trying to make videos for their own church? Like, is there a way that you found you've gone about kind of how you present stuff from a faith perspective that's different to how you would kind of present it if you were giving a highlight of Lionel Richie or Rod Stewart or some of the other acts that you've worked with?
Not overly. I think that for me personally, I know that God's been in my work from day one, and so I think what this has shown is that I don't worry about where work will come from. I know that God is in control of all that and always has been, ever since I went freelance and stepped away from a full-time job that had a few prospects ahead of it to do something that didn't have any guarantees. God is kind of, it's almost that picture where you step out in faith and God catches you as you step over the edge. That's been my work life for the last 4 or 5 years. And so I think going into this, as soon as it became clear that my normal summer isn't going to happen, I think that the difference was that there was no panic, there was no what am I going to do. I just knew that God was ahead of me. So that's possibly the biggest difference. I think the way that I approach all my work is the same, regardless of whether it's mainstream or whether it's church. I guess the content is obviously different, and sometimes the style in which it's shot is different. But my heart behind how I approach clients or how I approach the jobs are exactly the same. I want to be someone who's approachable and friendly in all circumstances, not just when it comes to church. But I think that the way that we are at the moment has changed video. Video's become very important in the way that we communicate and gather and do Zoom recordings and all this sort of stuff. But it's definitely changed. I think there's a need for content that is almost, it's kind of like the content just needs to happen, and the quality, it has taken a bit of a backseat in some circumstances, where it's not possible to have the utmost quality. Then recording a Zoom meeting is absolutely fine. And I've had to I've had to come to terms with that to an extent. In some of the work that I've done is literally been filming people via Zoom because I can't turn up to their house and set up a camera and be in their space. That's starting to ease a little bit now. We're able to go out and film and kind of look at space in between people. But yeah, it's been a bit of a journey for sure.
Yeah. And I know that you've always said that kind of God's always been faithful in your work life, and I think that's a real challenge to maybe there are other Christians watching this in business who are kind of worried, and obviously who knows what the implications of this will be and for how long, and that's taken a real hit on people, and people are
Definitely
struggling with furlough, and no one would have expected the economy falling off a
Yep.
cliff in the way that it has.
No.
So I think that's really refreshing to hear, and I just encourage others,
Yeah, definitely.
to really just rely on God. And there's an amazing study that I did once. Wasn't planning on talking about this at all, but God, if you want to walk on water, you've got to get out the boat, and it's that idea that actually to really know God's faithfulness and kind of experience all that God has for you. There are times where you have to just get out the boat and trust, aren't there? So I think that's an amazing testament to that.
I think it's important to say that it doesn't mean that you just sit back and wait for stuff to happen to you. There's obviously opportunities that are put in front of you in all aspects of life, aren't there? It's the decision. I think sometimes we can get stuck on, is this the right thing? And in some decisions, that's right. You need to have a good think about it. In others, you might be faced with a bit of an option of, do I go this way or this way? And we ask God, which is the right way? And I think my experience has been that actually it's not always that God gives you a correct way and a wrong way. It's actually that they're two different paths, but God will bless either, depending on what it is. But I think that for me, it's been a case of knowing that God's in it, knowing that God is for me and for my business, and wants me to kind of be successful, and all that side of things. So it takes the worry out of it, and so when those opportunities come about, it kind of calms me to think, this is God provided, and I should take those opportunities rather than sitting and waiting for something to land on your lap. That's it's really key.
Yeah. So I thought, Jim, while we had you on, obviously there's people from our own church who are recording stuff, but there's plenty of people in other churches as well who I'm sure may end up watching this at some point. We thought it'd be really good just to get a few top tips from a real expert as to the best way, regardless of whether you've got a proper camera or whether it's just on your phone. Like, what are some of the kind of real core principles of getting good video? So whatever equipment you've got, you can get the most out of it. So have you got some top tips that you could share with us as to kind of those kind of really basic principles of getting the best video that you can with what equipment?
It's this could be a bit of a hole that I go down of technical stuff. So if there's anything that doesn't make sense, stop me, question it, because this is my passion. This is my job. I love video. I love everything. Sounds a bit weird. I love my wife and my kids and my dog, but I do love video. I love the opportunity that that creative outlet can give you. So let's see what happens. But basically, I think that the ultimate piece of advice is that whatever camera you have in your hand is the best. I think some people strive for the big boys and all this sort of stuff, and think, well, if I just get that new camera or if I've got a DSLR type thing, then it will just make it better, and it will, but it doesn't necessarily change your creative output. It gives you more options, but it doesn't stop you creating and doing stuff. So if the only thing you've got is your phone or your laptop, it doesn't mean that you can't go and make videos. It just means that you might be a little bit more limited than somebody who's got more gear, but that's not a reason to not do it. So that's the first thing, is whatever camera you have in your hand is probably the best camera for the job that you've got at the moment. Okay, that's it. The second thing is unless you are on Instagram stories or TikTok or Facebook stories, shoot your video that way. Okay, please. Your TV is that shape because of a reason, and it's mainly because actually when you shoot video this way, it's a very narrow field of vision, and we're not used to, as humans, we have, you know, coming towards 180-degree vision, and when you shoot video this way, it actually is very narrow in that field. As soon as you turn it landscape, it's called landscape because it opens up the landscape of the field of view. So shooting it this way means that it's easier if you're putting it onto YouTube or Facebook. Well, not so much social media nowadays because a lot of it is shot that way around. But if you are creating something that is going to be edited or is going to go on to somewhere that is viewed on a big TV, so YouTube, especially nowadays, more and more people have got it on their TV and will watch YouTube videos. So if you shoot it that way, it utilizes all of that space that your TV has. If you shoot it this way, you're going to have big, ugly black lines down the side. That's a top tip. I think that what we're finding now as well is that we're doing a lot of self-shooting. So for us at St Thomas's, we're kind of filming worship, we're filming all age talks, we're filming preaches and thoughts and all sorts. And so a lot of it is about actually putting yourself in a place that maybe is a little bit uncomfortable. I think a younger generation is used to seeing themselves on the screen with apps like TikTok and all the rest of it, where it is very self-centered about watch me. I think the generation I'm from isn't necessarily like that, although some people are. But I think that just getting over the nervousness sometimes is half the battle. Is being comfortable and being at ease in front of a camera is a top tip as well. So just to relax and enjoy it, and especially if you're doing something like speaking, it can be really daunting to talk to no one, but it's understanding where this video will go, and if you are putting it into a forum where it's going to be viewed by a couple of hundred people or 10 people or whatever, then you're still interacting with those people via the means of your camera. So the more you relax, the more people watching will relax as well, and it'll be easier for them to take in what you're saying. That's probably a good hint as well. And I think also perfection. Sometimes we want it to be the finished product and we want it to be perfect. And actually some of that humanity, some of that human nature is that sometimes there are mistakes in the things that you say or the way you've said something. And that can be, that can either really put you off and distract you, or it can be something that actually is a bit of humor in your talk or your preach, whatever it is, that can actually just, again, put people at ease as they watch you. So don't keep filming 200 times until you've got it perfect, because I think you'll miss a little bit of the nature of who we are.
Yeah, it can become very manufactured, can't it? Or feel like it's overly, which particularly in a church context. I mean, if you're doing stuff maybe in your more normal line of work, people probably will film it
absolutely
on time, so it's absolutely slick, and and that's where it borderlines on performance, doesn't it? And
you don't want it to be distracting. You don't want to make mistakes that distract people, but you want to, the other week we had we've been doing our church services. The host of the service has been live. Usually my wife in the neatest corner of our house in our dining room, but we've also had people filming from outside. And Ali the other day was hosting, and it started, the wind just picked up and the rain came down, and she just had to deal with it, but kind of didn't ignore it, just acknowledged that this was going on. And it kind of just added that humanity to, it wasn't a finished product. If you chose how to do it, you wouldn't have your winds, the hair sweeping across your face or the rain coming down. But what you would do is acknowledge it and be like, oh my goodness, what's going on? And I think that really, again, it puts people at ease. It makes you feel, if you were leading a service in real life, you might start off with a joke. You might get people to introduce themselves to each other, to put people at ease so that they are ready to listen. And that's part of filming yourself as well, is to be in that place.
Yeah.
I think practical. I'm gonna take you over here to a practical solution. Okay, so it needs to be a little bit taller, but let's pretend. Hang on, let me turn it on. Let's pretend that this is a bright light source. Let's say it's a window, something like that. If you film yourself like this and have this bright source behind you, your camera is constantly trying to, I don't know if you can see that, it's trying to adjust as to what it's picturing, what it's putting into the correct exposure. And so by turning around simply like this and putting the brightest source in front of me so it hits my face, and I'm now the brightest source on this screen, my camera's much more happy now. It's not trying to adjust itself, whereas over here it's going, what's the brightest thing? Where am I adjusting? Oh, it's changed. All this. So if you're filming yourself and you've got a window, it's muggy outside at the moment, so it's not too bad. But don't stand in front of a window or something bright, even if it's a light, just that sort of thing as well. Don't put that behind you, put it in front of you, so that on screen you become, reflective wise, the brightest thing on screen. So your camera, whatever quality of camera you've got, will try to adjust. And so if you are the brightest thing and consistently the brightest thing, your camera's not going to be doing this flicking in and out type thing. I know, Jono, you've been filming most of your stuff in a conservatory, so you're kind of surrounded by light in terms of that.
And again, I suppose that's an example really of, like, for us, there's a practical element of
absolutely,
that's where you can be. I mean, it's been really useful to kind of learn as we've gone as well, and trying to use the blinds the limited kind of blinds that we've got and the other lighting in there. But it's not ideal, but it's
something we've never had to think about, is it? It would only be, if you're a professional or you've worked with lighting or anything like that before, that you would understand this sort of stuff. And so we're all learning. And so I guess the top tip, so the way that you're lit now, Jono, is that you've got a window. I can tell you've got a window on your right hand side, and the light's coming in and hitting you. The same with me. I've got a window here, and I've got a light above me, and you can actually start to see where the light sources are coming if you're looking for it. So it's just saying to look for and be like, first off, if I've got a camera that is set to auto or a phone, the camera will try to automatically, it will look at everything on screen and it will try to depict where is the center, where's the thing that I need to adjust. So if you've got a bright background and a dark subject, it might try to brighten up the dark bit of the picture and lessen it down here. But as you move around screen, it will try to adjust that. And so you will get that kind of flickering. So just have a look at it. If you're filming yourself, just do a short 20-second clip that's going nowhere and then watch it back. Because sometimes it's really hard to see on a screen when you're trying to set it up on a tripod or however it is. So just film yourself for 20 seconds and then sit down and look at it back and go, okay, what's happening? Is the camera happy? Is it trying to flick and all the rest of it? That's a good tip. The other thing is to try and the difficulty is the more expensive a camera you go towards, the harder it can be to get a good shot. And so sometimes you end up with needing more than one person. So on your phone, you've got two cameras usually on most phones. You've got a front one. There it is. Oh, hello, Johnny. You've got a front one there and you've got a back one. Now, the resolution between these two cameras will be different. And I know that on this iPhone 11, the camera on the back is the better resolution. It's higher quality. Everything about the numbers, when you look at the numbers, is better on the back than it is on the front. But I've got a decision to make as to whether I try and film myself where I can't see the screen and film it this way around, or is it easier to film on selfie mode, if you like, and be able to see myself on screen. So it's a decision, it's a compromise to go, okay, well, the quality might not be the most important thing. What might be more important is that I can see that I'm on screen the whole time as I'm doing my talk. Alternatively, you go towards like a little point and shoot camera. They could have a little screen that pops up like this, and then you can see yourself as you're vlogging. I don't know. I shouldn't vlog. I'm too old to vlog. But then if you go towards a DSLR, quite often the screens are either fixed or don't turn all the way around, so you can't see it. So sometimes it takes two people to set this up, to make sure you're in focus, to make sure the lighting's right, all the rest of it. Or again, set it up, position yourself where you're going to stand or sit, hit record 20 seconds, go back, look at it, and have a look and see what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it's for me, it's about being quality enough that it's not distracting. So I would rather that somebody was filming with a phone on selfie mode, but it was well positioned and they're lit well and you can see everything, than somebody who's saying, "Oh, I've got a DSLR, that's better quality because I've spent more money on it, but it's slightly out of focus."
Yeah.
Because then it becomes a little bit distracting, because just that little change has been noticed, if you like. Yeah.
And actually, in essence, it's the same principle as what we try and do as a sung worship team, and I'm sure some of the churches do as well. Where, you know, something I've always said to our team is, like, our job is to cause minimal distraction.
Yeah.
So that's where we as a church, and I would say we toe the line between kind of excellence and, you know, on that kind of spectrum of, like, I know the word that we talked with Sam on the previous chat about the kind of spectrum of, you know, do we go for, like, we're going to be musically, like, unbelievable and everyone has to be this level to be on the team, or do we just let anyone kind of come and join? And it's kind of, where do you sit yourself as a church on that spectrum? And actually our role as a worship team is to cause minimal distraction. So, you know, if you've got a ridiculously expensive bit of musical equipment but you don't know how to use it, and it's making buzzes and crackles and bangs and all sorts of stuff, then that becomes distracting, and it takes the congregation's eyes off Jesus and on to, oh my word, what the band doing today. Exactly. And that's where we don't want to be. And it's just kind of translating that same principle, isn't it, from live church to what I'm producing from my home as video content.
And that would be the same in all aspects, you know, from a lighting perspective at church. You know, if your lights are distracting people because they're going nuts during a quiet period, or if the speaker isn't lit, he's stood outside of a spotlight, and so actually the spotlight's off and the speaker's not lit. You know, it's those little things where it's great to have all this, but you have to put the time and effort into learning how to use the equipment to be excellent at it, so that it's not exactly what you said, Jono, distracting then.
We've talked quite a lot about the kind of visual picture. Should we just touch on audio as well for videos? Because obviously that's a really crucial, in some ways, certainly from a church perspective, for some people, particularly if you're preaching or if you're doing like an all age talk, or even if you're singing. I know some of our, we've tried as much as we can to use sort of proper microphones and audio equipment, but there's been times where people have, and it's worked quite well actually, just use the phone to provide a vocal for some sung worship. How do we go about tackling getting the best audio?
I mean, there's a few things. Again, kit wise, come prepared. You can get hold of something like this. It's a USB audio interface. So if you're doing worship, that's probably quite a key thing. So if you're a keyboard player or guitarist, then to be able to input your device, your instrument into your computer and record it is quite key. For worship wise, it does. I would say that it does take the production level up a notch, but it adds more to it. So you've got to learn how to record via something like Logic, GarageBand. I can't think of any PC. Pro Tools, if you want to splash out. It does mean
as well, I think, is a cheaper option on PC. I think.
Audacity, and there's loads of free ones as well. It's one of those where if you've got time to sit and learn that stuff, brilliant. It will up the quality of your finished product, because when when you are speaking into a mic or singing into a mic or playing your keyboard, if you're just recording with a phone and then you're using the audio from the phone, it's going to have the ambience of the room. So you're going to hear the recording as the phone hears it in the room. Whereas if you're using something like this, you're actually going to hear the recorded material directly into that interface. So it does mean that it ups the production level. It also means there's more to learn. But I don't know about you, Jono, but I've loved learning during this period. I think that I'm one of those people who would go slightly nuts if I didn't have anything to do, and I think that by getting hold, I've looked at I've been doing a coding course just for something to do online, and just to up my skill levels a little bit on certain things. And if you've got the time and energy and interest, then definitely encourage you to go and learn stuff.
Yeah.
But don't get hold of something like that and then think, oh, it'll be dead easy. It will up the production levels. It will make my worship for the church service great, because actually it will take a bit of time to get your head around that. But definitely worth a look if you've got the headspace. Excuse me. If you're recording with, whatever device you've got, whether it's a camera or a phone, the most important thing is that you find somewhere quiet. So if you've got bin lorries outside or you've got family milling around the rest of the house, then actually it can distract again. So if you're recording audio, whether you're singing or playing guitar, but in the background I can hear that something's going on. Well, it doesn't matter what it is. If I can hear that there's some sort of distraction, it's just, again, that little thing to take your eyes off what it is that you're trying to do. The other big thing that isn't necessarily noticeable until you listen back is if you film outside. So if you think, I'll go outside, it's a nice day, I'll film, you record your sermon, your kids slot, whatever it is, and then you come back and listen to it, and you suddenly realise that actually it was really windy outside. These things are awful at picking up wind noise, and quite often wind noise, depending on the direction of the wind, if it's going straight into the mic, you might only feel a little gentle breeze, but the mic hears all sorts going on, and actually you can't hear the end product of what you've been talking about. So if you're going outside, just be aware, is it windy? Which direction is the wind coming from? Where's the microphone on my phone? If it's on the bottom like iPhones, then just turn, if the wind's coming this way, just try and turn it away from the wind so it's not blowing straight into the mic. If it's too windy, don't do it outside. It's a great idea, but again, if it's going to affect the quality of the message that you're bringing, it's probably not worth it. It's not worth the difference of location. We've sorry, let me just go into my box of tricks. There are things that you can get that plug directly into your phone, so you can get microphones like standard lapel mics that plug straight in via for my phone it's a Lightning, so there's a little adapter that you can put onto it. You can get something called an iRig 2, iRig HD, great little interfaces to go directly into your phone. So if you are talking, you can just wear a mic, and then you can actually step away from the camera a little bit as well, if the lead lets you. But it just means that clarity, that the microphone is closer to your source of audio, so it's going to be a clearer sound. Again, if you're preaching or using your phone or camera, then just be aware of how close you are. The closer you are to the microphone, the clearer and the louder your vocal is going to come across. If you step further away, it might be a little bit harder to hear what it is you bring in. I think that's everything about audio that I can think of. Is there anything that I've missed?
That's great. That's really helpful. And I think it's sometimes just stuff, certainly the stuff that I've learned, when I've gone back and thought about it, I've kind of gone, oh yeah, of course that makes sense. But kind of in the moment when you're worried about, oh, have I got my script right? And, all that kind of stuff, it can go out the window. And like, I know sometimes we've had a few instances at church where people have done something brilliant, but it's been recorded in a way that's really unhelpful for us to be able to use. And it's not because people have rushed it or anything like that. It's because people have kind of just been so focused on what it is that the content that you're trying to deliver, that the video aspect is becomes almost very secondary. And it's almost just taking it going like, you know, I've got my script written, or I've got my lyrics up, or I've got my music, you know, I've been listening to what I'm doing. Now let's just take 30 seconds to just stop before I hit record and do it, to think, is the camera right? Is the lighting right? Is my audio right? Am I like in picture? Am I like way off sideways or something? Or, you know, and it's just kind of being disciplined, isn't it? To just take that 30 seconds and scratch the surface on what you do every time you shoot anyone properly, and just kind of go, you know, have I got some of these core principles in place? Yes, I have. Now let's go. Rather than just literally putting your phone down and going record and hoping for the best, I guess.
Yeah, I think that we've, you know, again, normally in a normal circumstance, if you were to film something, you would probably have someone operating the camera. Their job then is to look at the positioning, the sound levels, all the rest of it. You know, at the moment we are self shooters, and so you're not only having to be responsible for the content that you're providing, you're also thinking, like you say, am I in shot? What's the sound level? There's so much to think about, and I think that for anyone that's shot something and then afterwards thought, oh, that's rubbish, it's okay. It's a learning curve. We're all going through it, and if everyone could shoot video, then I'd be out of a job. So, you know, that's why you have professionals in all industries, isn't it? Because they've learnt the skills. So don't beat yourself up about it, and certainly don't not come to it, you know, again. It's something that you know, everyone's having to do and get better at. So definitely come back to it and do more. Don't let it put you off, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think the one other thing that I would point out is just what you do with that. So let's say you've shot your video, you're well lit, the audio's right, you can hear it. How do you then get that to whoever's putting your service together?
Yeah.
And there's a few different options, but you need to understand what those options do to your file. So I'm going to give you a practical example, okay? So, John, I'm going to shoot a video of you. Here we go. Just say hi, John.
Hello, everyone. It's so great to be on camera.
On camera. Okay, so I've now got a video on my phone. I would check it. I'd check the audio, all the rest of it. I've then got an option as to how to get this off my phone. I've just lost it. Where did I put it? I've now got an option of how to get this video file off my phone. There he is. Look at him in all his glory. One option might be that I WhatsApp it. So, John, I'm going to send you a WhatsApp. Okay?
Great.
Here we go. I'm going to send you a WhatsApp. Okay. So I've sent you a WhatsApp. Now, Jono, if I can share my screen, can you allow me to share my screen? I'll show you what that's done to the video file. So I know that my camera shoots in HD, which for the numbers wise means that along the pixels along here, there's 1920, so 1920 pixels, and down the side is 1080. So you might have heard those numbers kicking about, but that's what HD means. If you're shooting in 4K, those numbers get bigger. My camera's shot that particular clip in HD. So the file should be, let me start this up. Hang on. The file should be in HD. So let me just get rid of all this. Jim, why did you not open all this stuff beforehand? So I'm going to go into a WhatsApp. I'm going to go and find that video file that I just sent you, Jono. Here it is.
Just say hi, Jono. Hello, everyone.
There it is. Okay, I'm going to download that. So let's say somebody has sent me a video file for the Sunday morning. I'm going to download it. And now if I go and find it in my downloads folder, let's have a look at what WhatsApp has done to that video. WhatsApp video. Here we go. So we could see now that it has changed the dimensions of that video file to 848 and 480. So bearing in mind that when we started this, that number there was 1920 and that number was 1080.
So it's less
so
than
straight away, it squashed that video down and compressed it to make it easier to send. Now, it's a really convenient way of sending videos, and if you were just putting it onto Facebook, maybe that wouldn't be an issue, because actually most people will view Facebook on a screen this size whilst they're scrolling, or even on a computer that it might come up as the little box and it starts playing. For a video like that, that's not a big issue. If you're putting that onto your YouTube channel and expecting people to join you on for church on a Sunday morning, and they're watching it on their 42-inch, 50-inch TV, you know, that's maybe a 4K TV or an HD TV, what your TV is going to do is expand those pixels and make them bigger to become what it used to be, 1920 by 1080. So each of those little squares is going to become bigger, and you're going to start ending up with those little, you know, when you get a really low quality video and you can see the squares, you can see things
like Minecraft.
changing.
Yeah,
it becomes like Minecraft. So that, you know, depending on where your content's going, that's not the best way to get your content to your editor.
Yeah.
So if you are sending it off your phone, so let's go back to the original video. There he is. What I would do is go to a website called wetransfer.com. It's totally free to use as long as your file size is under a certain size.
2 gig, I think, isn't it? You can do on a single.
Yeah, 2 gig for free. And all you do is, even on your phone, if I go to wetransfer.com, you just click on send a file, add your file, and even on your phone, it gives you the option to go into your library. Don't know if you can see that. And you can choose the video file, the photo file, whatever it is. And that means that you are sending the original content over to whoever's putting it together. So it's not compressing it, it's not taking out any of the detail, it's not affecting the sound quality, it's the original file. If you're sending something over 2 gig, there is another website called myairbridge.com, myairbridge.com, and you can send up to 20 gigs on that, which is big enough for anything that you're going to film, I guarantee it. Again, those transfer links are only valid for WeTransfer. It's valid for 7 days, so that your recipient needs to download it within 7 days. myairbridge.com is valid for 3 days. Alternatively, if you've got something like, what's it called, OneShare, Microsoft?
Yeah, it's OneDrive or
OneDrive.
Dropbox or...
Yeah, Dropbox, again, that sort of thing where you can put the content somewhere that you own, or again, you're not changing the quality. It's when you look at the file sizes on Dropbox, if the file size is the same as your original to the one that you've put up, it hasn't changed anything. It means that your editor, again, or whoever's putting it together, has got your original content. And that, like I say, that becomes really important when you're blowing stuff up to a TV size, or you know, if you're worried about quality, if you're already shooting on something that maybe doesn't have a high quality, then don't put it into something else that's, you know, don't send it via WhatsApp where it's going to lower the quality again. Would be a tip. But
great.
Yeah, ultimately, I think my message is get on and do it. Enjoy yourselves. Don't let it be a headache. Use some of these tips. Brilliant. But if ultimately you're making content and people can see you and hear you, jobs are good. And it's not necessarily about trying to compete with the big boys, because this sort of gear is great if you have it, and some churches do have that sort of stuff, but that's, that camera's a $5,000 investment. Your phone, being whatever it is, 700 quid, is not going to compete in all the technical abilities of the big stuff. Yeah. And it would be great if we all had all the money in the world to do stuff and to be able to shoot quality content and have a production team around us and all that. But the reality is we're in a place where actually Jesus is calling us to connect, I believe. And I think that what we're finding is that people are wanting connection. There in this time, there's so many questions. Google have released data that prayer is one of the most searched for. How to pray is one of the most searched for phrases on Google at the moment. We as a church are seeing people who are not traditionally part of our congregation joining us on Sunday mornings or through the week by watching again. I think that we as Christians need to be in that place where we can offer comfort, thoughts words of wisdom, whatever it is, worship songs that speak to the soul. And video is at the heart of what we're doing at the moment with that. So don't let it put you off. Do it, absolutely do it, but just be aware of the kind of top tips of making sure you're heard, making sure you're seen, and making sure that that there's not anything distracting going on that can pull people's attention away from Jesus.
Jim, thank you so much for your time today. That's been really, really helpful. I hope that it gives everyone a bit of fuel for thought. I guess the other thing I'd just kind of leave with is just to rest assured, really, that although this stuff is going, in most churches, is going out online, like often it's stuff that people will watch once, twice, maybe three times, and then it'll be on to the next thing. So I really wouldn't panic about, which again is that kind of, do I do a million takes and stuff that, like it is really useful, but it's kind of consumable in the same way. In as much as once people have watched, unless someone's really wants to share a particular service or something really speaks to someone profoundly, then the likelihood is that people will, certainly the kind of regular content that we're doing in this season we'll do once or twice. So just get on and go for it. We've all had fun having a go, and it feels more organic, I think, as well, when you're in, and it feels like you're invited into someone's home. There's something really precious about that in this season. If you want to connect with Jim, do take a look at Centreline Films on Instagram and on Facebook, and you can see some work. You can see some of the kind of highlights and stuff that he does normally. His work is absolutely incredible. We're really lucky to have him with us at church, and I really hope that you found this video helpful, and we look forward to seeing all your video content. Send it through to us. If you're from another church and you've taken on board some of the advice, we'd love to see what you guys are doing as well. Let's share resources and let's be family together. Jim, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure, as always.